Hey guys, it's Mark Mosgrove again, and I'm with my toe host. You're my toe host, so I don't know what that means, but let's change it to co-host. You're my co-host, and today we're going to talk about you went to the library last week. We had a fun video with it, and then a more informative video with it. Why don't you tell us briefly what you saw when you got there? What? First of all, what was the meeting, and what did you see?
Well, the meeting was there's a group just in our local area, and it's called Medina Phenomenon. And they discuss strange and unusual things. Pretty much aligns with what we're going to be discussing here. Anything from UFOs to strange events to Bigfoot to anything you can imagine that is unusual or strange phenomenon. So we sat down. Ken Federer was and his wife Donna were the hosts. They have a nice table set up. They meet there once a month, and they discuss some different videos and events that are going to be happening. And there are many. If you're looking for them, they post them all. So went there, and the meeting was only scheduled for an hour and a half, but the people were really engaged and wanted to hear more. So we were there for probably more like a little over 2 hours, but they showed some videos and some different events and things that they're going to be appearing at, and where other folks are going to be too. So, our cast here, our videos are not intended to be just for local, but it's amazing. You don't have to go very far to find people who are engaged in these types of things, and they're from all walks of life, and that's why we love it so much. So that's basically what it was. I had a lot of fun. I went into a library where, somebody with a voice like me, I'm a little paranoid going into a library, and I think we ran a video on that because I've been booted out of just about every library I've ever been in. But yeah, but it was
Why.
fun. I don't know, Mark. Maybe it's because I don't have an inside voice. I don't know.
Well, I was amazed that afterwards, it's like you had a new fascination with this short little few minute video that you saw, which you taped.
Yeah.
And in a second part of this, we showed part of that video. And tell us who and what you saw.
Well, it was somebody that I guess he's a pretty well-known commentator, but it's a video that was submitted. I think it was a YouTube video that was submitted, and it showed a handsome gentleman named Skinny Bob, which I love, who was an alleged alien, and it was. I think the video was supposedly made in the 40s and submitted in the 60s or something. So their contention was that the special effects weren't available to alter the video. And to be honest, it was black and white. You could hear the projector in the background, right? The flipping the film and everything. And it was an alien. So, hey, there he is now. But if you watch the video, you can, of course, watch this over and see the video. Very lifelike. I mean, the eyes are blinking and everything like that. And I mean, they definitely did not have that kind of ability to do special effects like that back in the 40s when they contend that this video was made and then submitted in the 60s or something. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. And then it shows like a family and, I don't know. It's yeah. And there he is, but,
That's Bob.
that's our buddy Bob.
Now, I have to apologize to Skinny Bob. If I get it wrong, I'm apologizing in advance. I've caught myself multiple times calling him Silent Bob after the Kevin Smith character. So the two things that are similar is they're both silent, actually. Kevin Smith is skinny now,
Yeah.
but this picture here, again, you got to watch the video. But one of the things that's interesting about the video is, like you said, the eyes blink, there's movement. You can even see a little bit, looks like like a muscular neck if you look real close. But it's compelling. It makes you definitely look at it. Now, we also had them moving around, and we also had them standing there with their fingers. I've got a picture with the fingers. Okay, this is a screenshot of the video, and it's pretty blurry, but you can see his really long fingers. You can see the body, and in the video you can see them walking around. And actually the video had a little bit of a flying saucer shot, and there was several things, and then there was a handprint.
Move on. Are you sure his name isn't Dr. Bob? Because that last picture, he really, really reminds me of my proctologist.
Yeah. So, what did you think when you saw that video? You were compelled.
It was unusual, which I really enjoyed this meeting because you do see some things that you just don't normally see. I mean, I don't know. First of all, that is the first being that I've ever seen that walks upright with a bigger head than me. So that was somewhat fascinating. And
so the gravity, you're just kind of trying to figure out the gravity of the
whole
situation.
thing.
How do you keep that big head up?
especially on a little body. I could barely do it on my big fat body. I don't know how they could do it, but I don't know. You might not realize it, but I'm kind of fascinated by creatures with big heads and bulging eyes. So that's compelling too. I don't know where I've seen that before, but they really fascinate me. But I thought it was different, and of course the whole Skinny Bob thing. I mean, how can you not laugh when you see an alien with a big giant head and a skinny little body and gigantically long fingers called Skinny Bob? But evidently this has been going on for a long time, and the controversy exists. So, different people have different opinions, which begs me to ask, Mark, true or woo-woo? What's your opinion on this?
If I had to bet my house on it, and I had to say whether it's legit or whether it's a fabrication, I would say if woo-woo equals false or a fake, that's where I'm at. And here's my main reason why. Even though the video says this was filmed in the 40s and then it was refilmed in the 60s, and you can even hear the projector in the back, anybody with any sort of graphics or even entry level graphic design CGI could come up with that. I think this is somebody's project to look and try to be authentic. That's what I'm thinking. Just because they say, oh, this is from the 40s and the 60s, it's like a magician. When the magician says, okay, look in this hand, I've got a water bottle, and then look over here, and then all of a sudden the water bottle turns into a bird. Just because you say it's something doesn't mean it is. So if I had to say, I would say it's fake. And I got a couple other things, but you go ahead, and then I'll share you a couple other practical things that make me think that it is probably not true.
One thing I didn't see was when was the first time it was actually submitted for public consumption? Was it
2011.
Was it 20? I thought they said 2011. Okay, so I guess in 2011, the effects, although it was still pretty, I mean, 2011 was 14 years ago. With, the effects would exist to do the blinking and all the muscular and all that kind of thing. But that's the first time anybody saw it. I can certainly see your point. Now, if people were watching this thing and there is evidence that people had seen this video before, and it was a mass viewing, or a lot of different people had seen it, say back in the
50s?
Even the 80s. I mean, that would be pretty advanced special effects even for the 80s. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it would be for the 80s. Yeah, I would think so. But then when it comes to eye blinking and that, that sort of effect, I mean, all you have to do is look at the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, that came out in 1999. They have a whole character, Jar Jar Binks. That's
right.
Completely computer generated. He's walking around with real people. He's blinking, he's talking, he's putting his tongue out, going bleh, and all that crazy stuff. It looks very realistic. And we generally buy it in a movie, but then we know when we're watching a movie, obviously it's not true. But then when you see this, it's actually even more rudimentary. Did I say that right? Rudimentary?
Perfect. Third time was a charm, Mike, Mark, Mick. I'm
like
doing the same thing.
Probably not a hard thing to do for maybe a first-year graphics person or in the biz. And then they add to the intrigue, this is found footage. But it came out in 2011. I mean, we've seen movies where people's eyes are different shapes and different colors, and I mean, you can do all these things with effects. And then this video is kind of like shaky and black and white, and that's why I think it's fake. But then I got another practical matter, and I'll probably try to put the pictures up again. But they're in these outfits. And like you had the shot with them with Bob standing there with his big hands, but then the outfit is kind of like skin tight. And the first thing I thought is, how does he get his hands, unless it's some special space age material, which I guess it would be if you can fly in space. How are you getting those big hands in that skinny shirt? And then it's obviously not a pullover because he's got a big, huge head. How could you get that shirt over your head? So then it'd have to either have buttons, zipper, Velcro, and you didn't see that on the front, which means they're getting dressed from the behind or on the side or what have you. And I'm just thinking about that character. How could that character dress himself? See what I'm saying? How could he dress himself unless they have like woo-woo kind of tack that they can like transport the clothes right onto the person, or they grow the clothes as part of the being,
like an exoskeleton.
Yeah, but it looks like cloth. It doesn't look like anything space age or special. And, of course, when you have your old sci-fi references, of course, every alien always has shiny little outfits with a big, huge helmet, right?
Right.
No, I mean... Plus, they had color film back then. If they had discovered a real alien that they had talked to, they had color film in the 40s. Don't you think they would have filmed it in color?
Well, don't you think whoever submitted the video wouldn't have just disappeared off the face of the earth if there was money to be made? That's a question that begs to be asked. I mean, in our society, if somebody can make a buck, they're just going to submit a video and then they submit another one, or what was it for? And then all of a sudden they disappear off the face of the earth. That to me is, no pun intended, but that to me is kind of strange, that they weren't following following the money path, and they're just letting that opportunity. I mean, if that was truly legit, I would think that person would be on every talk show and everything else on the planet, talking about this and writing a book and whatever they could do to make money on it, unless it's just one of those rare individuals, like politicians who don't care about making money. You know what I mean?
Well, and where did they get a hold of the video? Because if they got a copy of it, first of all, why did they publish it on YouTube and disappear? Because like you said, why wouldn't you go out and make the rounds? And if there's one copy, there's more. Because when there's a copy of something, there's always more than one copy when you're talking
right.
digital in today's day and age. So I'm highly skeptical, but if you watch the presentation that you showed in our previous video, the gentleman, and I don't remember his name, he was leaning towards that it was true. And you're compelled to. And here's the thing. On this channel, when we have guests on, we are always going to be respectful to the guest with their story, because every story, I'm not God, Tim's not God, even though he plays it on the internet. We don't know. So that's why we want people to put in email a story that you have that is a compelling story, because we'd like to talk to you. And the email address is projectwoowoo@yahoo.com. We're always going to be respectful to our guests, even if we have an opinion. We're always going to be respectful. Now, on this video, when we look at something that's just out there, we're going to do what you suggested off camera. It's either going to be, or actually you said it on camera, woo-woo or true. And that'll be our little thing. In a case like this, I don't think it's true. But if it is true, Skinny Bob, don't suck my brain out, please. I have enough memory problems as it is.
Be careful, Mark. It might be too late. But
yeah, what you taking over?
No, it's true what you said. I mean, we are very respectful of guests. We love to hear different stories, different perspectives, and we reserve judgment for whoever else. And you can judge whatever you want, just not. Our philosophy is have fun, but not make fun.
Right.
So, everybody's got stories, everybody's got opinions, but we just want to get the content and the stories out there, and people can judge for themselves. More importantly, that even then, if it is true or woo-woo or whatever you want to say, or unproven or whatever it might be, the most important thing for us is to get things out there that are entertaining and interesting.
Right.
That's how we look at it. They're interesting and entertaining to us, and with you too. And we're looking at you more than us. It doesn't matter if I find something entertaining or Mark finds something entertaining if it doesn't appeal to all the people out there. That's what we love the most about our audience. It's very eclectic. We're not narrowing in on races or religions or political affiliations or genders or any of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people are just inherently interested in this kind of stuff, and we are too. Mark, I think you might assume, is a little interested. If you look in the background there, you can kind of see it.
I'm interested in space and science and sci-fi and Star Wars, Star Trek, and I wanted to be an astronomer when I was a kid, so I am interested in it. But with that, I'm probably even a little bit more of a skeptic on some of these things. If probably my default position when I see these sort of things is I'm going to be skeptical, because you can do anything with pictures and people can say any story they want, and so I'm going to be skeptical. But there's been so many crazy things that have happened, and I have a couple stories I'd like to share at some point, maybe soon. Things that you can't explain. And that's the weird stuff that we want to talk about. So
I was always fascinated by space too. Everybody always asked me when I was growing up what I wanted to be because I was so fascinated by space and telescopes and everything. So I told them I want to be a cosmetologist, you know? So who knew? Here we are.
I know. What goes around comes around.
That's right.
Except your hair. Once it's gone, it's gone.
That's what they taught me in That's what they taught me in cosmetology school.
So, is there anything else you want to talk about with Silent Bob? Because I would like to say we would love to have a guest on who has a different opinion than us about Silent Bob.
And
or more information.
And even more importantly, Silent Bob, if you're out there.
Oh my God, we're calling him Silent Bob. It's Skinny Bob.
Yeah, Skinny Bob. Sorry, that was my nickname, Skinny Tim, Mark. So I always make that faux pas. But yeah, I'm sorry. We did not mean to offend you, Skinny. What's more offensive, Silent Bob or Skinny Bob? But regardless, can we just call you Bob? Bob, Robert, Bobby, Booby, Bobby. If you're out there,
it's so androgynous. It can be Bob, it can be Roberta, it can be Bobby with a Y, it could be Bobby with an IE.
Anyhow, let me talk to you in a more compelling way. Bobby, okay. Bobby, Booby. If you're out there, give us a call. Come on, Booby. We'd love to have you on. You have a great story. Come on in. You can come into studio. I'm sure my family would love to see you walking into the house, especially my dogs. But yeah, if you're out there, man, we'd love to hear your story. You may have to try and speak or use a keyboard or something.
No, they do it telepathically.
Oh, so they'll just give it to us.
Yes.
And then we'll have to move your.
Yeah, most people who have had close encounters of the third kind, they always say that it's telepathic conversation. That it's never the aliens talking with their mouths, which makes sense. They would have a different religion, or they're so advanced. I mean, look at the size of their brains. When you think of a brain, you got the brain of a. Just think of the intelligence that's in an ant, and how little that ant is. That brain is like pinprick size, and that ant knows where to go, what to do, what its job is. It knows. It doesn't have to ask for directions. It knows where to go. It knows how to come back to the hive, and that's just a teeny little brain. And usually an animal's intelligence is based on brain size, and that's why human beings have a brain size larger proportionally than other animals. If you took the size of a human's brain and put it on say an elephant, the brain would be even bigger. In other words, our heads are kind of bigger than our bodies because we're smart creatures. So then when you see a space alien that's got a brain, gosh, I don't know, double or triple the size, what kind of power could a brain like that have?
And not to mention, you talked about telepathic communication, not to mention those big, gigantic, long fingers. Like I had mentioned, when I went to my proctologist and he was putting on his glove, I already knew what he was thinking. He didn't have to say anything. So maybe it's the same way with these aliens. Not always pretty, but you know what they're thinking.
But why would a creature have the long fingers like that? What would be the reason? Because it seems like, well, I mean, for us, it would seem awkward. Obviously, for them, it probably would seem natural.
I mean, you would think maybe it's because they have a really long nasal cavity, but it didn't seem to be the case with this guy.
Could be.
You know what I mean?
I mean, if you had those long fingers, you could help E.T. out with that behind you. But I do have to say, I know we were kind of getting off here, but did you notice at the beginning they had some UFO footage? We didn't see it too good in the video because the video started out kind of further away, but there actually was a UFO that was flying. And it looked like a UFO that you used to see in the movies in the 50s. And that begs the question, are all these sightings of flying saucers through the years based on what Hollywood said that they were? Or did Hollywood make flying saucers for the movies based on what people saw? Or combination of both? Because it kind of looked like a classic 50s flying saucer.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a secondhand account of a 40s, mid to late 40s sighting of a flying saucer. And I'm not going to say who it is, but it's an older family member of mine. And when he was young and he was like kind of maybe no more than waist high, he was out on the back porch with his mother, and this would have been probably based on the story he told me, and he has no reason to tell me anything different. I trust my family member. He was, 5 or less, and he was born in the mid 40s, so let's just say before 1950, and he looked up and there was a flying saucer, and he saw the flying saucer not far away, close enough that it was like a saucer that you saw in the movies, the typical flying saucer, like the one you see at the beginning of this video. He said he could see windows, he could see detail, he could see movement, that someone was in that thing. And as a kid, it terrorized him. And so he grabbed his mom's legs in terror, and she was like, what is, wow. And then it was gone. Now, the regret I have with that story is that his mother, I knew for 20-something years, and I had never heard this story before, and I would have loved to hear it from her. And that's one thing that I wish that people would do more of, is pass down family stories. Because I've heard a few family stories of mine, not all about UFOs, that I've heard after the people are gone. And if you've got a story like that, maybe people don't want to say because people think that they're crazy. But share it, because the younger folks want to hear things like that. I would have loved to talk to her when I was old enough to talk to her. As you can tell, I'm inquisitive and I like to ask lots of questions. And I would have liked to fill that story out a little bit more. Now, have you ever had anybody say they actually saw a flying saucer with windows and the whole bit?
Yeah, I mean, my brother has a story, but I wanted to save that maybe for another episode. But yeah, I mean, I've heard several accounts, but his was definitely the most compelling. I mean, I guess I could tell it, and then, if he wants to come on and give a personal account, he can do that. But we were living at home. We were just kids. And I was actually taking a bath. That's how long ago this was. People took baths back then. I was just getting ready to graduate from high school. So we were older, but I was in the tub and I had my class ring. So I guess it's kind of an account from both of us, but I had my class ring and I had it on the windowsill. They were the big, thick kind of windowsills back then. It was an older house. And all of a sudden there was this vibration in the house, right? Oh, look how I did that. Pretty good, huh? But there was a vibration in the house, and all of a sudden my class ring bounced off the thing. And I literally thought we were having an earthquake. It was like this intense, like humming, like I thought it was like an earthquake or something. I didn't know what the hell it was. And then all of a sudden my brother, man, he was upstairs. It was an old Cape Cod house, and it had like the peak top where there was still a room with the old, and a lot of people probably maybe have this in their house or grew up that way, but they were like the knotty pine slats on the ceiling that went up, and I think it went up like this, and then there were some tiles right in the middle, but on the sides. So when a car would come, we lived on a hill. When a car would come up the hill, the lights would hit on the side of the road, and they go about halfway around, and then they would disappear because, of course, the lights were past the house. So I'm like, Jeff, what the hell's going on? And I was already freaked out because of what happened when I was in the tub. And he said, Tim, shit. He goes, I never seen anything like it. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I was laying in bed, and of course, for the first thing you're going to ask him after he recounts the story, because back then there was rampant marijuana use. Were you high, or had you been drinking? But no, he was perfectly stone cold sober. And he said, and the light came up like, we see at night. And instead of going past, it started going around the room. And he said, I got up, I looked outside of the window, and probably, this was close. I mean, it was no more probably than 200 or 300 yards away. He said he saw in the air almost like a gyroscope. And that's where that vibration was coming from. It was going, woo, 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 woo. And then the middle part, was moving really, really slowly, right? So he said, then all of a sudden it's sitting there. He goes, I was fascinated by it. I'm watching it. And all of a sudden it's going, woo, woo, woo. And then all of a sudden the middle part started spinning faster. And it just went, woo, 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 and then gone. It just shot off and it was gone. And, but it wasn't just like saw it off in the distance. I mean, it was like perched over the houses in the neighborhood, and it had the lights and the whole shot. But, you hear some of these stories about like gyroscopes and different, shapes and stuff and magnets and things like that. And you always wonder if technology in another species or race or whatever, maybe, all you have to do is at some point in history, even if you're not more advanced, some point in history, maybe you take another, you zig instead of zagging, like maybe the human species did or something. And it takes you down that, another pathway, so, and it depends on the people too, so I was amazed by that. Jeff, he was a hunter and everything. He didn't scare easy. And he saw that, and I was just like, wow. I mean, now I didn't see it, but I felt it. I felt something making that noise. I heard it, and it, like I said, it bounced my class ring right off the windowsill. It wasn't something like, it wasn't stealthy, okay? This thing was like, I don't give a shit if people see it or not. We're going to check this out and look at it, and who knows what it was? I mean, maybe it was some kind of a government experiment or something like that, but it made you sit up and pay attention, that's for sure.
When you say about it being like a gyroscope or gyros, is it a gyro or a gyro?
I think it's a gyroscope.
No, is it a gyro?
If it's edible, it's a gyroscope. But if it's
a gyroscope, if it comes from Greece.
Right. If it's a lamb, if it's made out of lamb.
Okay.
No, it's a gyroscope. I think that's what they are.
But Close Encounters of the Third Kind had those kind of like twisty little lighty ships. You remember? So you're saying it was almost something like that.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, it was like a almost like a sphere inside of a sphere, like spinning in two different directions, and I guess the velocity of each of the sphere kind of determined direction and the speed and everything. It was really kind of cool. I didn't see it, but that's why I'd like to have Jeff, my brother. Sorry, Jeff, I threw your name out there. They're coming with the nets, buddy. But
you better get his tin hat on.
Yeah.
Now, did Jeff say how big this was, or is it kind of hard to tell?
It's kind of hard to tell, but it was massive. It wasn't like a small little anomaly, like you see. And that's one thing I see. We've had several discussions on Skinwalker Ranch, and it's like they see these anomalies, and they're like, the one guy's like, yeah, it's like it was like just 100 yards right above the mesa over there. and it's like it's like if it was that bright and it was 100 yards above there, it's like it must have been the size of like a tennis ball or something is what I'm thinking, because I don't you know what I mean? If you look at it and it was that close to the ground, it doesn't look big at all, but this thing was massive. It was almost like the big thing that just came up out of a lake or something. It was just this big massive ship, and it was just there, for long enough for him to lay eyes on it for just like a minute, and then almost like maybe it was surveying something or whatever, and then it just, because it came out of nowhere.
But nobody, you didn't hear that anybody else saw it, like
nope.
At school, or is this your older brother or younger brother?
My younger brother. And you know what's weird? You know what's weird about it? And we've interviewed people that have equated like aliens to. And this is I thought about this. Last night I was thinking about it. But we interviewed somebody that had equated like aliens and spirits, like ghosts and things, like they were both from a different, like a similar realm or something like that. And the funny thing is, I've told that story about being down at my girlfriend's house and the all the weird stuff that was going on. The funny thing is, where this spacecraft was hovering was right above the lake that was right by their house.
Really?
So it was like right there.
Well, real quick, retell the Reader's Digest version, your story of the girlfriend. We have an episode of that, but real quick.
Yeah, I'm kind of a jokester. I always have been. I like to play pranks and have fun. So she lived in an old sandstone house, typical Victorian, big wooden solid doors, balcony, baby grand piano in the foyer. Beautiful, big, giant house, but it was built back in the day when they did, sandstone, big blocks and stuff for the building materials and things like that. So there was a rumor that it was some guy, the previous owner, was buried under the piano, the baby grand piano in the front room there on the side. And so I went down and said, I'm going to scare the shit out of her. So I'm trying to think of some stuff. And I thought of like, I'm going to describe this guy and say he was like talking to me or whatever. I'm just going to say. So I went down there and said, the weirdest thing, I caught this image in my head and I started describing this guy. She pulled out a picture and it was the guy. They had a picture from the guy that owned the house before. It was the guy to the T. I mean, I'd never seen the guy before, heard him, but I described him to a T. And then so I was just like, well, that was strange. She went in to make a sandwich. I sat in the front room, and all of a sudden there was a hammered out knob, like a cast iron knob on the inside of the door, and all of a sudden it's just shaking like crazy. And I was just like, I thought nothing of it. I go, Denise, your parents are home. Your parents are home. I'm a kid. I'm in high school. I wasn't paying much attention to anything, setups and everything. But she did come in and she opened up the door wide and she goes, there's nobody here. And that's when I caught that the outside door, put two and two together, the outside of the door, there was a latch, just a curved latch that you press down. Now, when you press down on the latch, the doorknob doesn't move, okay? So something was shaking that doorknob, and then we walked over by the door. I'm like, well, that's weird. And all of a sudden, all the pictures on the wall just went cockeyed of her, like, family on the wall. So freaked out? Yeah, pretty freaked out. And then you start to wonder, people say your mind can do crazy things. So it's like, did I cause that, or was it something in the house, or was it a combination of both? It's like really weird. That's the only time, Mark, that I'd ever experienced or even really felt like weird in the house. Do you know what I mean? I've been in there several times. So I never really had felt really, really strange or anything. Like one house I lived in, I definitely think there was some weird shit. It was just a creepy house and you felt that way. But I never felt that way. So I don't know. Was it me? Was it the house? I don't know. Who knows?
Well, the first time you told that story, we kind of went, it was a ghost. But now you added the information that the unidentified flying object, which now they call UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Mm-hmm. So UFO, UAP, pretty much the same thing.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there was some kind of a connection there.
Oh, yeah. Is there a connection, or was it maybe, let's just say hypothetically, there was a spaceship with it, and that ship flew over that same house. Maybe it wasn't ghosts at all. Maybe it was them like, hey, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you had walked outside the door, maybe you would have saw. Now, do you know if the spaceship story and the haunted house story right around the same time, or
Yeah,
you
it
don't
wasn't.
really remember
Yeah,
how
it
long?
wasn't. No, it wasn't that.
Weeks, months?
Probably weeks to months. Because I was a senior when I was dating her, and like I said, I had my class ring on when my brother saw it, and it bounced off the thing. So it had to at least be within probably the year, but I can't remember. I can't recount exactly how soon the events were related. I never even thought of and I never. Well, yeah, the first was the seeing all the stuff happen, and then he saw the crap. Like I said, I never saw it. I just felt the vibration and heard it and saw that the ring came off of the windowsill. But I never even thought, and then the fact that when you think of, at least most people, at least I had never thought like of aliens and ghosts in like the same forum. And then we had our guest on, and I think you've put that episode. Have you put that episode out yet for public consumption?
Not the full length, just like a.
But so I don't want to ruin it for you, because it really kind of made me go, what? I'd never heard anything like it. But he's like talking about in the spiritual realm, fallen angels or something of that nature, where like aliens and spirits like ghosts and things like that were all like fallen angels, or the offspring of bad, offspring of fallen angels or something. I don't know. It's just, but when I heard it, I was just like, whoa, I've never heard of anything like that before. But, it almost like bunched them together, and neither one of them were in a very good place as far as people you'd want to talk to or meet or anything like that. And it just kind of made me think of that.
Well, what was interesting in that conversation is he gave the theory that the aliens may be demons or what have you. But then when we asked about inside a spaceship, he would, which I found interesting. And the next time we have, his name is Mike, next time we have Mike on, we'll talk more about this. That's a fascinating, you're afraid of it, but you want to go and see.
Right.
So let's go ahead. I got my story. Let's go ahead. Tim, thank you for sharing. What's the chances of getting Jeff on?
Well, getting him on, chances are
You're
pretty
try,
good.
Right?
Him using any kind of technology rather than, rubbing two sticks together to make a fire are probably slim to none. But we can certainly
Sure.
we can certainly send him an invitation. He really lives out in the sticks, down in southern Ohio. So I don't know if he has much of a Wi-Fi connection or if he wants to do it. But yeah, I'd love to get him on. And again, when I first talked to him about it, he was like, oh no, you guys aren't going to get me on there and make fun of me. And I said, that's not what we do. That's not what we're doing. We've seen some strange things ourselves, and we're just giving people chances. The nice thing about this forum, guys, and I'll quit honking the station or the channel, because it sounds like I'm just trying. But the nice thing about this, I think, one of the big benefits is, if you're watching and you're subscribing, which hopefully you will, and you're hearing stories, there may be a good chance that you hear a story from somebody else that you've either seen or heard on your own, or a friend or family member has, and you're like, wait a minute, maybe I wasn't imagining things. Maybe something like this happened.
I've got one for you.
Yeah, let's hear
ahead.
it. Let's go.
Okay, so I graduated from college in the mid-'80s, and when I went to college, I went with a friend from high school, and we roomed. So this would be 1986. So I went off to college. I had a roommate who was about 2 to 3 miles from me back home. So we had winter break. We both went home, and I worked over that month period. One night, my parents went. My sister had a band thing, so they went out of town. They never went to town. So I was home alone. Was extremely, extremely rare. Exactly. Extremely rare. But, I needed to work, and I was working like 60 hours a week at the time, because that's what you do when you're going to college. You try to make as much money as you can. So one night I'm trying to get to sleep, and I grew up in the country. There was nothing. All you heard was the frogs in the lake next door, the croaking of the frogs. And then when it was light out, you would hear birds. Total silent. It was cornfields all around. There was nothing. Just the road. And we sat way back. I grew up on 3 acres. We sat way back. So it was quiet. You could hear anything. So I'm trying to go to sleep, and I'm hearing this humming outside. Like a humming noise, like a mercury light that hums, or a ballast is bad, like that. But we didn't have any lights outside. The neighbors, the houses were far apart, and I'm hearing this humming noise. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I couldn't get to sleep, and I'm like, am I imagining that humming noise? So I was compelled enough to get up and look out the window. And when I looked out, I'm looking around like, where's this humming noise from? And I look up, and there's a light in the sky, and not just a light far away, but I would say probably about the half the size of the moon. It was bright, and it was pretty big. Now, I couldn't tell you how far away it was exactly, but I would say relatively close. And I'll tell you why in a second. But this light started doing this sort of thing, like moving across the sky, lickety-split. It did it, I don't know, half a dozen times, maybe 10 times. And so I'm looking out, and I was scared crapless, because I'm like, the aliens are landing. I had no protection. I was out there alone. So they could have literally landed in the front yard or on the side, came in and got me, and nobody would have known, because that's how remote it was. So I'm seeing that, and I'm thinking, gosh, I must be so tired that I'm seeing lights moving around and buzzing noises. I must be that tired. So I went to bed, didn't say anything to anybody about it. I thought to myself, my mind is playing tricks on me. Went back to college. About a month or two later, the topic came up with my roommate about UFOs, and I said, yeah, I saw something strange. And as soon as I said that, his face went, when I said I saw something strange over the winter break. It was like that, and all of a sudden he's really serious in the face. He says, well, what did you see? And I said, I saw a light that was bouncing around, and I kind of was vague about it. He's like, well, that's really interesting, because one night my girlfriend had came over to my house, and she was tired. She didn't want to drive home, and it was a couple miles away, and he ran cross country, so he drove her home. She happened to live about a mile from, and it was warm out, and he runs 3 to 5 miles cross country, so he decided to run home. And as he was running home, saw Zach, but he was outside, and I was like, when I said about the light stuff like that, I purposely was vague. I said, where did you see it in the sky? So he told me what road he was on and which direction he was, and I knew the road, which direction he was, and he said he stopped dead in his tracks when he saw this, and he told me where it was in the sky, doing the triangulation. It's exactly what I saw. So there's two people independent who saw the same exact weird bloop, and it was over a period of like 5 minutes. And he said the same thing. And he said, I have no idea what it was, but it was a really loud hum. Of course, he was outside. I don't know what to make of it, because back in 1986, there weren't drones. And even now, do drones go bloop, bloop, bloop in the sky? I don't know of anything that would do that at midnight in December in 1986.
So what you're saying is he corroborated your story? Was this at the same exact time you were seeing it? He was seeing it also.
But it came up in conversation probably a month or two later.
Okay.
Because, we had gone home. Then we came back to school, and, we went on about our business, and it just happened to come up a conversation where I think even it was someone else, mentioned UFOs, and I said, yeah, that reminds me, I saw a weird thing over winter break. And if that conversation had not came up, him and I wouldn't have had that conversation, and I never would have had any sort of another person, a person who I trusted at the time. And if Todd, you're out there, I'd love to have you on. I'd be curious if you remember that story, because I still remember it all these years later. And we got collaboration independently. Same thing, same experience. His was even better because he was outside seeing it, hearing it. So I wasn't overtired, and I wasn't crazy. So that actually made me feel better that at least in one case I'm not crazy. But
what were the lights? Were they bright white lights, or were there multicolored, or
white?
Okay.
Just a simple white light. It's almost like if you took a night light like a light you have outside, and it was up in the sky. It was about half the size, maybe a third the size. It wasn't a little pinprick right away. It was definitely I don't want to say a globe or an orb, because I was looking at it through a window, so it's hard to say.
And that's the only time you ever saw it when you lived down there, or?
Never saw anything before. I can't think off the top of my head ever seeing anything since, but having someone else independently seeing the same thing. Now, maybe someone watches this and they're like, yeah, I remember back in 1986 and that. I mean, maybe a classmate of mine happened to be out there, but you would have had to have been outside. But it was loud enough to get me out of bed. Just this humming. Just this humming. It's weird.
So the humming noise sounds familiar. That sounds like kind of what happened where we were. And in the grand scheme of things, from where I lived back then in a different county to where you lived in your county, it could
not
be
too far away.
It could be a ship or something could go from there to there in the snap of a fingers, you know. So
you were just outside the county I lived in,
right?
You were probably what, minutes away, maybe 30? But
yeah,
you know, something that flies fast, that's nothing. So what do you think?
Well, you guys weren't at happy hour earlier that day, or you know, out sharing a blunt after band practice. So I think it's pretty. Whatever you guys saw it sounds legitimate. And then you have to ask yourself the question: was it something ever otherworldly, or? You know, you don't hear a lot. Like, it's funny, you and I have, our accounts of these things include noise, like a louder noise or a steady noise that's very audible. A lot of these accounts, it's like a stealthy thing where you don't, people don't hear anything. So I'd be curious, as you guys are giving ideas or sending us your emails. Mark, give them our email address. So if you have an account or a story or something and you're too skittish to be on camera, or just don't want to be, or you do want to be, you know, send us an email. We read them and we do respond to them. And then you could either be a guest, or with your permission, we would, you know, give folks your story. Or if you just want to comment on something like what Mark and I were just talking about, if you saw something similar or heard a similar noise, this is kind of a great forum to, you know, get that information out there.
Yeah. And if you don't want to come on, but you have a story to tell that you would like to film a video, we could, we'll take videos like that, and we'll take your testimony, and we will take it and we will listen to it. And if it's something that we feel that is compelling to share, then we'll share it. And like we said at the beginning, we'll always be respectful of what it is that you saw or experienced. I think in my case, it's pretty good validation that two people in two different spots saw the same. We didn't. So if my friend Todd and I had said to classmates at college or dorm people this story, they're like, yeah, those jokesters got their story. And someone could say the same thing about you. Let's be fair. Someone could say, those Andrews boys, they're at it again, coming up with their stories.
Right.
But we know better, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we do.
These are the kind of stories.
But yeah, just it's pretty easy to remember. Mark will put it up on the screen. That's probably why he didn't say anything. But it's just, or he just completely forgot what I asked him 5 seconds before. But that's no way.
Well, that's because, you know, who knows? Maybe the aliens came down and took me away during that time.
Brain-sucking freaks.
And maybe my friend running out there looked up and they're like, oh, we better take him back.
Attacks of the brain snatchers.
My hair started falling out soon after.
Get out of here. It's Project Woo Woo at yahoo.com, right, Mark? Pretty easy to remember. Woo Woo Yahoo. So,
all righty.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
We are glad that you enjoyed us. Do you have anything else to share?
It's right around Halloween. Let's hear some spooky stories.